Hello and welcome on our YouTube channel. This is Analytic Energy Agency. My name is Alexey Presnov, and today our first video and first broadcast in this year. And we started with English language broadcast because the thing is that in Russia we still have holidays, and today is just Christmas Eve, and only on this coming Thursday, the working week starts. But in the rest of the world, most of the countries, they already have started their working week, and this is Monday today. And we will try to discuss today some general things, the general discussion, general talks with you regarding what is going on and what is happening in power industry in general across the world, what are tendencies and trends, and what we are going to face this year, which is promised to be not so easy as the previous one as well. But let's discuss, let's see, maybe we will find some solutions, and we want to share our thoughts on that. And especially in these conditions of uncertainties which the world faces today, and all those expectations for the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine after Donald Trump will come to power. And the thing is that power industries across the world today have still those hypes from the past, I would put it so. It's a hype of energy transition with all those green deals, Inflation Reduction Act in the United States, hydrogen projects, ESG agendas, which is kind of a new religion, which became in recent years. But now all of us feel that all that is past already. All that is, waning away, withering. Why? Because all this globalist agenda, I would put it, it's falling apart in all senses, political ones and so on. But we will concentrate and focus on power industry. In power industry in the world, we have many hypes in the last, say, 10, 15 years. It was smart grid, as you remember, like 10, 15 years ago, and we hoped a lot on that. And we thought that it will, resolve many problems in our industry. But then it was, shifted to DER, so-called distributed energy resources. It's behind the meter, for instance, among the consumers, this new energy for resources. And you remember also it was a lot of talks about Internet of Energy and so on. And then demand response was also flourishing, for several years. And again, a lot of hopes were related to this kind of instrument or mechanism to resolve problems of the industry. Then we see this energy transition, which I already mentioned. It became a religion for many specialists and many countries, and industry was just filled with all those plethora of specialists in this area, and sometimes they just replaced general economists or engineers in the industry. So it's a lot of things were happening. But again, as I said, it's a little bit going away, and for last year and maybe last 2 years, what we saw, it were this AI, which is artificial intelligence, data centers, mining, which require huge amount of electricity, and new concerns appeared that there is not enough energy on the globe in general, especially across the countries relative poor in fuel resources, for example, continents like Western Europe. But it was them, first and foremost, initiated, widely promoted renewables in power production back in zeros, 2000 zeros. They were advancing green agenda all over the world, and all this led us to the energy transition fever, which perhaps is justified. I'm not, climate specialist, but I think that's partly justified. At least it seems so. But to a certain extent, of course, it looks like a pure hype and a pure propaganda, no doubt about that. But again, the problem is that all those efforts and developments need a global approach in the world, since all those environmental problems, all this green agenda, they don't recognize any borders, boundaries between the countries. So we need a global approach to that. And but about 10 years ago, 2014, and we all know what had happened at that time, and it started gradually, decreasing. This global approach start gradually falling apart. But then in 2022, it abruptly disrupted, and it was actually ripped off. And paradoxically, it was again initiated and carried out by the same forces and same countries. Most of them are located on the European continent, and they belong to European Union. And it's paradox that they have invested so much efforts into this new green religion propagation with corresponding publicity, and sometimes, as I said, a pure propaganda. And but they just ruined this global approach, which is needed for this energy transition agenda. And therefore, it seems to me it's a very strange position. We know the reason, of course, and we may evaluate these events of February 2022 in different ways. But of course, if we look at this thing, attentively and carefully, then we will find that all what happened was not just, as a bolt from the sky. It was, gradually developing. There are many factors there, and I don't want to delve into all this politics and there are a lot of politicians. You can just watch on YouTube, and they will explain to you what is going on about that. But today, what we see the problems in Europe, where prices of electricity are becoming extremely high, sometimes extremely volatile, and that's a main actually feature of those prices. As you know, in 2022 and 2023, they went up substantially. There are some voices to close the market at all this liberal approach to the industry, but then they have coped with the problem, and this is kind of merit of the electricity market of European countries. The models of those, so it was a little bit modified, and but still it showed itself sustainable and workable. But the thing is that still the situation with electricity prices in Europe are very unstable, and we saw this autumn, this fall, we saw some cases when European countries which are rich in hydropower resources and rich in electricity in general, like Norway, Sweden, they were very furious about what had happened in Germany when they didn't have wind and solar, and therefore the prices went up substantially. But the links between those countries also led to the situation where that these high prices from Germany were transferred to those countries, and they saw the prices they never seen before, and they never expected and never imagined to see. Yes, of course, these tendencies and these crises actually often become drivers for new technologies advancing, as it happens, for instance, with batteries, with these battery energy storage systems, BESS. Uh, because they are flourishing right in European markets, in the northwest of Europe, in Britain, in Italy also now, and that is good. But still, also there are some, these changes in models. For instance, in Nord Pool, which is introducing these shorter intervals for and pricing time formation units from 1 hour. Those beats, from 1 hour to 15 minutes. They just shorten this period of price formation, which is makes the market more liquid, of course, and probably more stable. No, especially it's related to the high penetration of renewables in the countries which runs Nord Pool model. But again, there is no stability on the market. We notice, and there is a disruption that we also understand because of all these things of related to sanctions and all this. When relatively cheap for Russian gas ceased to be main source of first primary resources for electricity in Europe, and that led to higher prices and all those instabilities. And we see also, sometimes it's very dramatic cases like in Moldova, for instance, or this breakaway region, Transnistria, where this gas transit through Ukraine was stopped, as you know, from January 1st this year. And we just, can see that and can view probably some kind of, humanitarian catastrophe, especially in this part of Istria, because they don't have gas. They have just coal for this electricity, or power station, which again belongs to Russia, belongs to a Russian company Interao. So everything is very interconnected and tangled, and so we need to, to gradually untangle all those nodes and some to see what it will happen, not to to lead to the situation which can go out of control. As also on the Russia is on the other side of this barricades between of those disruption of energy. And with all this great potential for providing energy resources to the world, but again, it's now artificially limited, this ability to provide the world with resources on the one side. On the other side, it faces a lot of their own problems, especially regarding the needs and necessity to renovate the power industry, which was built mostly in the Soviet times. And now, of course, they have to, to rebuild this, to modernize the power industry. and they are very limited, again, artificially because of this disruption in their resources to purchase efficient equipment like they did back in zeros and tenths of this century when they were renovated. They built about 35 gigawatts of new capacity based on the CCGT, it is combined cycle gas turbines and so on. And now they are, doing, of course, it has to fulfill all those tasks it faces within next, like 20, 25 years. They have to replace almost 80% of their generation there, plus extend the grids, which is more or less in better conditions, especially on this bulk grid system, comparing to generation, of course. But the thing is that they are very limited in their choices to buy equipment, and so they have to create their own equipment, and they do that. But the problem is that, of course, becomes more expensive, less efficient. So it's both sides suffering, but and something has to be done to remove all those things if we think that the world must evolve itself to a better future, to this low carbon development and so on. And in the middle, there are some other, this, I would put it, swath of the countries, like, for example, Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, we are normally focused on, also some other countries in Central Asia like Uzbekistan, where there are no efficient markets at all. They didn't create this kind of markets during all those years of post-Soviet development, but they are facing similar problems as Russia because also all their energy and power industry was created back in Soviet times. But for them, it's more difficult on one side, and on the other side is easier because they have access to all those equipment, all those facilities and choices from Western world technologies. But the thing is that what we see there, the way they cooperate with foreign countries, it's sometimes, or even not sometimes, but mostly it's not an efficient way for those countries. What I mean that investors from Western countries and from Arabic countries, for instance, in Uzbekistan, they just come there, build their facilities, build their power stations, some solar parks, renewables, and so on, wind parks, and then they strike a deal with governments for a very long period of time. It's because, of course, they wanted to have a lower price, and that's why, the time of those contracts are getting longer and longer, and the length is very high, it's up to 25, 30 years. But then they create conditions for stranded assets. It's a direct pathway to stranded assets because we understand that in 10, 15 years, all those facilities, all those technologies would become obsolete with 100% surety, and then what else? But still, they will be in place, and still those investors will get money. And another thing is that they bring technologies, but they don't share those technologies with this local, this local companies, aborigines, because normally the deals are structured like that. So they just build facilities, produce electricity, for instance, get money for that, and then they just repatriate those money back to their countries. And even in relations to workforce, they don't hire much of local personnel, and so all that is doesn't look like a good choice for those countries like Uzbekistan and even Kazakhstan, and that's dangerous development, which I warn them in our videos. When we discuss all those things, we want to just point out that there are some danger and that kind of developments. What is needed, to my understanding, is that in general, if we speak about generality of the situation, we need to sit down and get back to the point that if we want to develop power industry, and make it efficient and with a low carbon footprint and so on, we need to cooperate with that. And all those sanctions, all those political things, they are created by the people normally, which are not accountable and not responsible if we look at the long run on the situation. Because they are, elected, and they can be removed for 3 years, and we see that all those governments in Western countries, in the European Union in particular, in Finland, for instance, or in Germany even, they are very short-lived governments there, but they make those decisions. They take those measures which affect us and affect industry for the long run, and then they just disappear, and nobody is responsible for that kind of things which we are facing now, and in terms of disruption of the industry development, disruption, this higher cost for everybody, for Europeans, for Russians. Who wins in this situation? Probably America wins, and we can see that because all these industries from Germany, for instance, they just moved to America from other countries where the energy resources are lower in price. And we understand that energy resources in the modern world, it's a main advantage, and it's a main thing which is needed. Therefore, we have to be very careful when we take that this or that decision on that case. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Let us stay in touch. We will see how it goes this year. We hope all those expectations for peace talks, which we cherish with expected Donald Trump administration, which will be inaugurated on January 20th. All that bring us closer to the peace, to the stable peace, sustainable peace, not just a ceasefire when they talk about and entering some, this military force into Ukraine, which is completely unacceptable for Russia. I can tell you for sure, as a citizen of this country, and I feel the moods here. So what is acceptable is to extricate the roots of this war, and there are some of them should be compromise should be found, in my opinion, and there are some grounds for this compromise. Still, we have we can find some solution which brings the lasting peace to this territory, and removes all those disruptions which are discussed today. Thank you for attention. Happy New Year once again, and let's stay in touch. Thank you.